We start to learn a little bit more of the details about training camp when it goes to Costa Mesa, California. We'll tell you all things that you need to know, plus a lot more on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for May 9th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're giving us a look on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show continues to grow each and every day. That's because of you, Raider Nation, and my man Ari. Ari does a fantastic job. I cannot sing his praises enough because without him and his dedication, we wouldn't be on YouTube. So shout out to my man Ari. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. Of course, you can hit me up as well at your boy Q254, as many of you do. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. A lot of calls and texts that I want to get to, as many as possible, coming up on today's show in segment number 3. So we'll make sure that we do that. Segment number 2, Assistant GM Champ Kelly, a guy that I'm a big fan of, a guy that obviously wanted to get the GM job. Did not get it, but stayed around as the assistant GM, spoke with the media on Wednesday. I was not able to be on the Zoom call, but I do have some of the highlights, some of the good sound bites from that call, and was able to listen to the whole thing later on. We'll tell you all about that. Plus, you'll hear from Champ Kelly coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and we'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms will apply. And when it comes to news and notes, I really want to deep dive into Costa Mesa and the training camp. We talked about it on Wednesday's show that the Raiders officially are returning to Costa Mesa, or will be headed to Costa Mesa in 2024 for training camp. It's a one-year thing right now. It could extend and be a little bit longer, but as of right now, we know is 2024. So after the vote was approved, it was 7-0. After I tweeted it out, let it be known that they'll be back in 2024, there was a slew of questions that was thrown my way about, well, you know, how many people can go? What does it cost to get in? Is it open to the public? Yada, yada, yada. And really didn't know a whole lot of answers. And we had a few answers before, at least we thought we had a few of the answers before. And then we found out a little bit later on that no, there's actually going to be some rules and regulations that are going to have to be followed because of the NFL, and this has to do with fans being in attendance. So Vinny Bonsignore put out a fantastic piece on the RJ talking about the Raiders' decision to move at least part of their 2024 training camp to Costa Mesa has restrictions. So what are those restrictions? Well, the Rams and the Chargers have the rights to the area, which means that the Raiders are limited in how much they can market themselves in the region, which, first of all, the Raiders don't have to market themselves, right? They don't have to market themselves in Costa Mesa. They don't have to market themselves in Southern California. They're already the biggest, the sports team name football-wise in SoCal, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. So it's going to be self-marketing just knowing that they're going. Speaking about, them going to Costa Mesa outside of the area, like I can be in Vegas and talk about it. We can be in the Bay Area and talk about it. We can be at the southern tip of Africa and talk about the Raiders headed to Costa Mesa, and there'll be plenty of marketing. But again, that's part of the rules. So part of the limit of marketing includes their ability to open practices to the public. So that's a situation, because at first we all thought that the practices were going to be open to the public, like you see the Cowboys have, like you see the Chargers have, like you see the Rams have. So what Vinny goes on to say is the Raiders will likely only host season ticket holders, select guests, and sponsors at their Costa Mesa workouts as a result. That sucks. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. That sucks. It was a great opportunity to be there in Costa Mesa, be there where a massive amount of fans are located in Southern California, and then all of a sudden limit it. Now, I understand why they limit it in Henderson, because the space is not that large, right? I mean, I've been there every year that I've been here in Las Vegas, and there's just not enough room for everyone just to show up and show out. So I get it, right? I get the sponsorship. I get the season ticket holders. I get the limitations. Man, if you're in a facility like this, that just stinks. And again, it's not a Raiders rule. I want to be perfectly clear. I'm not saying that it sucks against the Raiders. It sucks against the NFL. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, the Raiders and Costa Mesa agreed to a one-year deal Monday that allows the club to use the Jack Hammett Sports Complex for a portion of the summer camp. No official dates have been set. Costa Mesa leaders have discussed July 19th to August 11th as a possible window, which I do believe it's going to be that. But because the Raiders are just going and that's not their actual vicinity, that's why they're not able to open it up like the rest of like the rest of the folks that have camped there that are in that region. The Cowboys, they are able to open it up to the public because they were there before the Rams and the Chargers returned to the area, right? So any other team from outside, like the Saints, when they come in, they're limited as well. They can't just open it up to any fans. If the Houston Texans had been approved, same thing. But again, it just is a bummer, right? Because we all know that Raider Nation was getting excited. I was fired up, right? I couldn't wait to get out there to Costa Mesa and be able to meet a lot of Raider Nation that I don't normally get to see or doesn't normally get to come to Vegas and check out a game. It was going to be a great opportunity. So Vinny goes on to say the Raiders must hold at least 10 practices at the complex under the agreement, and they have to inform Costa Mesa by January 1st if they wish to return there for 2025 training camp. But all in all, it's just a little unfortunate. Again, it's going to be limited as far as the fans that could observe training camp. And, I just think it's a missed opportunity. And I hate that the NFL has put these kind of rules and regulations and really is protecting the home area of the Rams and the Chargers, because the Raiders, we know, are a bigger fan. There's a bigger fan base there in the Southern California area than there is for the Rams, than there is for the Chargers. Hell, than there are for the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are able to go ahead and, flap their wings there in Oxnard, California. So there's going to be 5 NFL teams that are all going to be within the same region, right? From the Saints to the Raiders to the Cowboys to the Rams and to the Chargers. And only the Rams, Chargers, and the Cowboys are going to be able to have it free and open to the public like that. So unfortunate. We'll find out more details, but those are the ones that most of Raider Nation really cared about the most. Was there going to be access? Was it going to be open to the public? And it sounds like that was potentially the plan, but the plans have changed because the NFL has rules to protecting the home region of those teams. Again, very unfortunate, a huge missed opportunity as far as I'm concerned. Now, also, we found out on Wednesday about rookie minicamp. We knew it was going to get underway on Friday, May 10th, and it is. We got the email from the Silver and Black. We're going to have an opportunity to be at the Intermountain Health Performance Center for that practice. And we won't be out there for the whole 3-day minicamp for the rookies, but we will be there on Friday when it gets started. We'll actually get to talk to head coach Antonio Pierce at 10 a.m. in the in the media room like we always do. So 10 a.m. Pacific time, we'll talk to Coach Pierce. They'll have an open window of filming, stuff that we can sit there and observe from 11:20 approximately to 12:20, so about an hour time. There's going to be a limited time where we could take pictures, take videos, tweet them out, whatever the case may be. I'll definitely do that at your boy Q254. You can check out any kind of video, any kind of pictures I'm able to take while I'm out there. Again, the window is very limited. It won't be for the whole hour, but we'll be able to be out there and observe the practice and be able to come back and report on what we saw from that hour window, 11:20 to 12:20. Then around 12:20, when everything gets wrapped up, we'll have a few of the draft picks that will be made available at a podium near the outdoor practice field. So we'll talk to AP at 10. We'll watch practice from 11:20 to 12:20. And then around 12:20, 12:30, we'll have an opportunity to talk to a select few of the draft picks. We don't know which ones, but they'll select a couple and they'll bring them to us. So that's the latest and the greatest. Again, it's not great when it comes to the fans that are going to be able to be in attendance in Costa Mesa. Again, I'm really bummed when I found that out. Really was bummed about that situation because, man, it was going to be like a party, man. It felt like it was going to be almost like a family reunion, and I hate that for Raider Nation. I hate that the Raiders aren't going to be able to celebrate being out there as well like they would like to. Like I said, like the Rams and the Chargers, like who cares? Even the Costa Mesa Council, as you heard on Wednesday's show, I should say, they were fired up and excited and were really poo-pooing on the Chargers, trying to be as nice as possible. But like, hey, we're Raider fans. We're excited about this opportunity. So, great for Raider Nation and for the team to be able to put another thumbprint, back in the Southern California area. But unfortunate that everyone's not going to be able to be in attendance. But as we get more information, please believe we'll pass it along on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So coming up in segment number 2, assistant GM Champ Kelly, he had a decision to make after Tom Telesco got the GM job. Was he going to stay? Was he going to go? He stayed. He helped come up with this draft class. He's continuing to work with the team. I think he's doing some great things. He talked to the media on Wednesday. You'll hear some sound bites from him coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of our great sponsors here on the show, and that is BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, right? Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. So it's very important that you let it out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. So it could be something that's job related. Like I know someone that had an opportunity to go get a job, but they had to move out of town. It was going to be a really good job, but the money wasn't good enough to be able to move the whole family out of town. And so there was a big decision that had to be made. And sometimes, you can't talk to someone like me that says, hey, yeah, go for the job. That'll be fantastic. It's a great opportunity. You can't talk to someone who's a loved one who doesn't want you to see you leave. You have to talk to someone who, as I mentioned before, is unbiased in your life. So sometimes that's where someone like BetterHelp could come into and really help you out. Talk to someone and get it off your chest and get their unbiased opinion. Therapy could be different for everyone. Most of us have huge problems that sometimes we like to talk about, sometimes we don't like to talk about. But again, therapy can help you out. If you're thinking about starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to give you a few breakdowns from assistant GM Champ Kelly when he met with the media on Wednesday. I was actually filling in on ESPN, Carlin vs. Joe, so I wasn't able to be on the call when it initially happened. Now, of course, I got a copy of it, was able to go through it following, later on after I got off my radio show on Raider Nation Radio 920, and I was able to listen to it and take a few of the sound bites away. Respect the hell out of Champ Kelly. Think he's a really good dude. Hate for him that he wasn't able to get the GM job with the Raiders. I understand it, but hate for him because I really think that he's going to be good wherever he gets a job. And I do assume he's going to get a GM job sooner rather than later. He's very well respected around the league. For him and the Raiders, I believe it was just an experience thing. That was the biggest holdup when it came to him not getting the GM job. But a real good dude. He's got his head on right. He's got his faith right? Takes care of his family and makes sure that, he checks his ego at the door. So when he met with the media, he had actually this great opening statement talking about Raider Nation, shouting them out, talking about the scouts that put together the draft class, and of course, shouts out his family as well. Here's the opening statement from assistant GM Champ Kelly.
All right, first of all, I got 3 things before you guys start with questions. To Raider Nation, obviously these last few months have been eventful for me personally. I just want to thank Raider Nation and the silver and black fans all across the country for their support. I've received texts, emails, DMs. People have come up to me at my daughter's games. Just really thank you guys and really appreciate it. Secondly, to our scouts, in particular, since the draft just happened, our college scouts, JoJo Wooden, Brandon Yergin, Lenny McGill, Andy Dangler, DeJuan Daniels, Ryan Gravel, John Hill, Curtis Knox, Calvin Branch, Matt Hand, Kyle Caballero, Sean Herrock, Greg Ravini, Jalen Morris, Kyrell Michael, Nick Papagno. There's probably some others that I missed, along with our pro scouts. And this group did an excellent job doing the draft process. They began the year scouting for a particular brand of football. They had to change gears 8 weeks in. They adapted to that, and then they adjusted again once Tom was hired full-time. It's a testament to their resilience and their professionalism. I also think it speaks measures about Tom, his character, that he recognized their efforts and their works, and I'm excited that most of these guys are going to be back with us as we forge forward. Lastly, to my wife and my girls, they were with me through the highs and the lows. They trust me in all of our moves. My wife said, regardless of what happens, she was ready. I just want to tell them that I love them for how they love me. In my initial press conference, I gave a shout out to my middle child, Chloe. It was her birthday. But my youngest child told me that if I'm ever at another press conference, that it's her turn. So Caroline, I love you, baby. I'm proud of you. And she scored her first club soccer goal this past weekend. So we're excited about that. With that, let's get to some questions.
So just a stand-up dude, man. Just really is. Again, got so much respect for Champ Kelly. Would not be shocked at all to see him have a team of his own sooner rather than later, be the GM of a team. And I salute him. Just being able to talk to him, hear him. He's just got a really strong head on his shoulders, and you can always respect that. And like I said, I do believe he's going to do some big things sooner rather than later. Well, one of the conversations that we have around here, one of the conversations that Raider Nation has all the time is about the quarterbacks and the quarterback rooms. And so he was asked about that, and he's talking about all 4 quarterbacks, not just Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, but also Brown and Bradley, right? There's 4 quarterbacks currently in that quarterback room. So here's Champ Kelly talking about that room and the competition that he's looking forward to in training camp.
I think to speak on that room, right now, we have 4 guys that are in that room. You guys know Aiden O'Connell and what he did last year. Gardner Minshew, who we added in free agency, Anthony Brown. Nobody's spoken about him, but he does a really good job for us right now. And then we added Carter Bradley. But we are excited about first of all the work that Aiden did last season toward the end of the year. Obviously, you guys know that was one of the first moves that AP and I did made. When we got into leadership, was to give him the opportunity to be a starter. And not only give him that opportunity, but through the midst of adversity, we stuck with him because we believed in him. And we're excited about, his growth and what he's going to be able to do year two, but also excited about this competition. Gardner Minshew, what he went 7 games last year, took his team to the playoffs, was a Pro Bowler. It's going to be a really good competition. And that's all we've asked for every position group on our entire football team. Every piece that we've added has been to incrementally improve and to increase competition.
Love the fact that he brought up all 4 quarterbacks, didn't just single out Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, and also let it be known that they're excited about the competition between O'Connell and Minshew. Because, look, make no mistake about it, that's who the competition is between in training camp, who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Silver and Black. O'Connell, as I've said so many times on this show, he's won games. He's shown what he can do. When AP and Champ Kelly, as you heard him say, gave him the starting job starting on November 1st, he took it around with it. He had some rough moments, but you obviously saw him get better towards the end of the season. And Gardner Minshew had the Colts right on the doorstep knocking, trying to get into the playoffs in 2023. So the competition will be healthy. Are those 2 guys the quarterback of the future? Are they the franchise quarterbacks long-term for the Silver and Black? Only time will tell. I don't think so, but that doesn't matter. What matters is, can these guys help the Raiders win games in 2024? And my answer to that is yes. And obviously, that's the answer that the Raiders have as well. So they didn't take a quarterback in the first round. They didn't take Terrion Arnold in the first round. They ended up with the tight end. They took Brock Bowers out of Georgia, fantastic player, a guy with all kind of talent, and really is listed as a tight end, but is really more of a weapon. So here's Champ Kelly talking about Brock Bowers, how he sees him and envisions him in the Raiders offense.
Yeah, I think my wife could watch the tape on Brock and be excited about him. He's a really good football player and was highly productive in college. His position is tight end, but we saw him as a playmaker, an offensive weapon. There is by no means any pressure on him to come in and attain any numbers. Like, we need him to come in, learn this system, get acclimated to this city, meet his teammates, learn how to work well with Michael Mayer and Harrison Bryant, Cole Fotheringham, Zach Gentry, and get to know those guys and really learn the offense. But yeah, he's a fun piece to have because it's going to be interesting to see how defense are going to deploy when he's on the football field.
So you hear what he's excited about when it comes to Brock Bowers. No expectations as far as he's got to have certain numbers, but just know that he could be lined up everywhere. And they're excited about what he brings to the table, and you should be excited about what he brings to the table. The Raiders had a problem struggling. They had a struggle scoring in 2023. Getting to 20 points was like, oh, man, that's an accomplishment. That's not going to win you a lot of games, regardless how good your defense is, right? So you've got to be able to score more points. That's why Brock Bowers is in the mix. That's why he's been brought along. He's going to be that matchup nightmare. You hear Champ Kelly talking about see how he works with, Michael Mayer, how he works with the rest of the weapons that they have in the mix. And they're just going to have to get accustomed to that and as quickly as he can get caught up in the speed of the NFL. That's all going to start on Friday when rookie minicamp gets underway at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. Now, another guy, we know that Jackson Powers Johnson is expected to be a stud, the 2nd-round pick out of Oregon. The first question came with Delmar Glaze, DJ Glaze, right? And where does he fit in the mix? Some people looked at him as a reach when they got him in the round 3, when some thinks, okay, should have been a 4th-round pick, maybe in a 5th-round pick. Is he going to be that guy? Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be a swing tackle? Well, the Raiders got their eyes on him. Obviously, they already had their eyes on him, but the Senior Bowl did some good things for DJ Glaze. And the Senior Bowl, the Raiders have been frequent visitors to the Senior Bowl, right, where they, more times than not, are selecting guys that come from Mobile, Alabama, where here's Champ Kelly talking about DJ Glaze and how big the Senior Bowl was for him in his production.
Yeah, no, I think, Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl do a really good job. We had a few coaches that, were able to coach on different teams, during that process. But the thing that stood out about DJ was, he's a 21-year-old tackle that played, 800 plus snaps at right tackle, and then played another 800 plus snaps at left tackle the next season. So we were impressed with his pass pro, his strength, and felt like he was a fit for what we're trying to do as we move forward. And anytime you can grab a player at that position with versatility, you try to get them acclimated to the system and bring them in.
Love the Senior Bowl. I really do. I think it's one of the most important showcases. I mean, look, Quinyon Mitchell, right? He ended up going to the Eagles in the first round, right? He was the first quarterback taken off the board. He made a name for himself at the Senior Bowl, right? DJ Glaze, kind of separated himself at the Senior Bowl. Jackson Powers Johnson did some big things at the Senior Bowl, even though he was injured. Like, the Raiders love to go and cherry pick players that are participating in the Senior Bowl, especially the practices leading up to it. Look at the other guys. Leatu Latu, first defensive player taken off the board, pick number 15 by the Colts. Guess where he was? Senior Bowl, right? I mean, it's such a great showcase, and there's so many players each and every year that Jim Nagy and his crew get to say, yep, they all got drafted out of the Senior Bowl. I think it's awesome. I really do, and it's one of the most important events that they have in the offseason to help these players showcase who they are. Just got a couple more sound bites from Champ Kelly and his media availability that happened on Wednesday at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. And how about the 6th round pick, the running back, Dylan Laube? He's out of New Hampshire, right? A lot of folks didn't even see him coming. He wasn't a guy that was on my radar, but I've heard nothing but good things about him and what he could bring to the table. So what does Champ Kelly, the assistant GM, what does he think about the 6th round pick and how he fits in with the team?
He's a fun player to watch because of his versatility. You watch him create not just as a running back, but also as a receiver out of the backfield. So he's able to do some of that. But, when you get to the latter parts of the draft, you're looking for players that can find their way on an active game day roster. And the way you do that is by, playing in multiple roles, but also having 4th down value. And so, I think he had averaged over 30 plus yards per kick return and over 11 yards per punt return last year as well. And so getting a player, at that time, with that caliber of play, was exciting for us. His mentality is to grind. He's excited about being a Raider, as you guys have heard from his initial conversation with you all. So, looking forward to meeting him and watching him work. That's going to be an exciting room to watch.
Kind of what we've been talking about when it comes to Dylan. He's a guy that is going to thrive on special teams. Tom Telesco, the GM, had mentioned that as well, that he was one of those guys that, he was going to really cut his teeth originally on special teams with the new kickoff rules. He should be a guy that is very effective and help out in a major way. Also a guy that can catch a lot of passes out of the backfield, right? There's been a lot of, Austin Eckler conversation. There's been a lot of Danny Woodhead conversation. Sounds like Dylan has a real deal opportunity to be a big-time player on this team. Like, it's funny, we look at a 6th round pick and say, well, he's got to really struggle to make the team. It seems like now, and I said it before on Wednesday's show, it feels like 6th round picks, 7th round picks, they're not just drafted and say, well, let's see if they make the team. It's like, okay, they're going to make the team. These dudes need to be selected because they're going to make the roster. Just feels like times have changed a little bit as the way that we look at certain draft picks. And you know what? That's what good teams should do. They should draft for 7 rounds and think, hey, every guy I just drafted is going to make the team. Now, we know that that's not going to happen more times than not, but there's a chance. And it sounds like there's some big plans for Laube. He's just got to go out there and earn it starting on Friday. The final soundbite I have is just a real quick one. And, we heard Terrion Arnold talking about the Detroit visit and talking about the Raiders, and then talking about the Raiders giving him a call and saying, hey, it was a coin flip between you and Brock Bowers, which, clearly meant that, it came down to the wire and there was a lot of discussion back and forth, right? I mean, I don't think that there was actually a real deal coin flip. Like, okay, here we go. Brock Bowers is A, Terrion Arnold's B, or heads and tails. You get it. So I don't think that really happened, but it sounds like it was really a good back and forth between the two. I'm sure AP, being a defensive guy, probably want the defensive player, right? And maybe Luke Getsy, or maybe, Tom Telesco are really leaning heavily on the offense. But here's Champ Kelly's real quick response to the Terrion Arnold and the coin flip. Was that really a thing?
Yeah, I can't confirm that at all. Terry is a good player. I'm excited to watch his career and watch him play. But we drafted Brock we're excited to get him here. And I don't think anyone else in our whole, draft room felt any other way.
So as you could expect, he wasn't going to say, "Oh yeah, that's what we did. That's how we made a decision." You want to talk about being the laughing stock, but it really picked up a lot of steam on Wednesday after that soundbite got out from from the podcast that Terry Arnold was on and said about the phone call being a coin flip to if he was going to go to the Raiders or not, and that would have been a big difference for him. Going number 13 overall as opposed to number 24 he went to the Detroit Lions. So I think he's in a really good location. I think he's going to do some good things in Detroit. I think he would have done some great things with the Raiders, but I think Brock Bowers is going to do some great things as well. So that's what I got for you for segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Just a few minutes of the breakdowns of what Champ Kelly had to say. It was really like a 17, 18-minute press conference. Obviously, not going to play the whole thing and give you every single soundbite, but thought I would give you a good, 5 or 6 of them here in segment number 2. Segment number 3, your calls and texts off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We'll get to that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA. It means you can get playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. Great last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime will take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You can use the app. You can customize your spot. You can find those flash deals, zone deals. You can do anything you want. Views from your seat in the venue and the lowest price guarantee. They even have cancellation protection, job loss protection. That is all by way of Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Do it right now with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start off with Raider Educator out the 925. He's calling to talk about not what the Raiders didn't get, but what and who they did get in the draft. Here he is, Raider Educator out the 925.
What up, Q? It's your boy, the Raider Educator out of the 925. Hey, I'm just sitting here in the schoolhouse listening to you. I listened to Monday and Tuesday's pod just now back to back. Just a couple comments, mostly about the quarterbacks. I'm cool with AOC and Minshew, after our draft getting Bowers and JPJ in the first 2 rounds. I think it's kind of a blessing that the top 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12 picks and we're sitting there at 13. So we weren't painted into a corner taking number 6 to 6. So yeah, I'm cool with those guys going into the QB room. But, instead of talking about who we didn't get, let's talk about who we did pick up. Talking about an undrafted free agent is not really going to move the needle with too many Raider fans. But let's talk about Carter Bradley, the kid from South Alabama. He's got Raider ties. His dad is Gus Bradley, obviously the ex-DC, former Jags coach, one of the architects of the Legion of Boom. So Carter Bradley's been around an NFL family a long time. He transfers to South Alabama after COVID years with Toledo, and he set school records for pass yards, completions, touchdowns. I think he's going to be a really good player for the quarterback room. Now, is he our franchise quarterback? No. But I guarantee you, or I shouldn't say guarantee, but that emergency number 3 quarterback, that's a good place for him to develop, especially with that QB room we got. Like, my comparison to him watching the draft guys would be like a poor man's J.J. McCarthy. The very same exact build, probably just not as athletic. Last thing I want to close up with is talking about probably my favorite pick of the draft for our team. Trey Taylor, safety out of Air Force. Now, I watched a lot of Air Force this year because one of my former players is a starting D tackle for Air Force. Shout out Peyton Zadroit. Now, everybody talks about Trey Taylor being the cousin of Ed Reed. That's a cool little nugget. But why aren't people talking about that he is the Jim Thorpe Award winner for the nation's best defensive back last year? We're not talking about Terrion Arnold. We're not talking about Quinyon Mitchell. We are talking about Trey Taylor, 2-time All-Mountain West player, AP All-American. 2 weeks before the draft, I was watching some highlight tapes, and I even tweeted out and retweeted it. I said, Trey Taylor's being slept on. When we picked him up in the 7th round, that is a great pickup. So, that's what I'm calling to say today, talking about the quarterback we did pick up. I'm talking about probably my favorite late-round addition in the draft. Raider Educator out. Everybody have a blessed day, and we appreciate you, Q.
Educator, thanks so much for the call. It's always great to hear from you. Carter Bradley, He definitely has the familiar family ties, I should say. Spit that out with his pops. He'll be a guy that I look at as probably a practice squad dude like Chase Garbers was. He could probably hold that spot down and maybe develop into something. As far as Trey Taylor goes, he's a Jim Thorpe Award winner, as you mentioned. Hell of a player. He's got a big road to climb, making the squad as a 7th-round pick. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, we expect 7th-round picks to do that now, right? He's a guy that has ball hawking skills. He's not the fastest, most athletic dude, but he's also a guy that he just understands angles, understands plays, he's just a student of the game. So he knows a lot. So I do feel like he has a good chance. He's talked about being a starter. We'll get his first chance to see him come Friday, and I'll report back what I see. But thanks so much for the call. It's always great to hear from you. Up next, got a text from Poncho in the 213. So what's up, Q? First-time caller, long-time listener. It's Poncho from the 213. You're my first listen of the day at 4 a.m. I just want to say one thing about how we get behind our quarterbacks that we have now and elevate them so all this noise goes away and see what they can do. I believe this is what AP is doing, getting rid of the noise and elevating our players no matter who they are. Much love. Keep up the good work. Love the show. P.S. I'm super excited about Game 1. I want to see our defense dominate and our offense destroy the competition. Let's go Raiders. That's Poncho in the 213. And, it's funny. How many years has it been since we said, well, the offense is going to have to do the heavy lifting because the defense isn't very good? Now, literally what we're excited about seeing, I can't remember exactly what team it was, but there was a team that Nnamdi Asomugha was on the defense at that time, where I was more excited about seeing the defense on the field because I knew that they could make plays. That's when Kirk Morrison was on the squad. Thomas Howard, rest in peace, was on the squad. I just felt like they were going to make a play, come up with a turnover, maybe take it to the house, especially T. Howard. It seemed like he was always doing that. I was so excited about that defense. This is the first year in a very long time, maybe going all the way back to whatever team I'm talking about, whatever year that was, where I'm excited about seeing what the defense looks like as well. What they were able to do, especially the second half of the season, post November 1st, was unbelievable. Kept them in every single game and won games for them. They won in Kansas City on Christmas because of the defense, right? I mean, it's just, I like it. I like it a lot. I'm excited to see what they can do. I also believe that, the quarterbacks can win games. And I believe that O'Connell can improve. I think he's definitely improved, right? You saw him improve over the course of the end of the season. Now that he knows that the competition between him and Minshew is not like he's a 4th-round pick that's going to get, maybe a few reps here and a few reps there. He knows he's going to get a heavy dose of the first, team reps. I think the competition is going to be fantastic. The defense growing and the quarterback competition is a couple things I'm looking forward to come training camp. Thanks so much, Poncho. Appreciate you chiming in on the show and listening on the daily. Thanks so much. That's awesome. Up next, got a call from Raider Twan. He's calling to talk about the post-June 1st money that the Raiders are slotted to get. Here he is, Raider Twan.
What's up, Q? It's your boy, Raider Twan, out here from D.C. I just wanted to give a call, say thanks for all you be doing, keeping us updated with all the Raider news. You got one of the best podcasts out there. But my question was, have you heard anything about what we plan to do with some of that Jimmy G money after that June money kicks in? I believe it's the middle of June. Is there any interest in going to get someone like Xavier Howard or maybe some other lower-level free agents that's still remaining out there that can come in right away like Marcus Peters did last year, hopefully, play with more aggression all throughout the season, somebody that can last. And lastly, I just wanted to say shout out to the whole Raider Nation. We got to keep it together. It's a lot of bickering about who the quarterback is or could have been, but, we've been sorry or average for a long time, and now we're starting to see some progress. Let's hope AP can stay in there for a long time. Him and Telesco look like, we finally getting some good draft picks, so let's see that light at the end of the tunnel. Keep it solid, Raider Nation.
Twan, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. And I think that the Raiders will hand out a few contract extensions, honestly. Like, that's where I'm really leaning. They may go and, get a veteran corner, maybe Xavier Howard if he's still out there or someone else, Steven Nelson if he's out there. They may, go and get another wide receiver if they feel like they need some depth, especially looking at the rookie mini camp. How do these guys look? How do these guys start to look in the training camp? Do they have to go make some moves? They might, right? But I really think that contract extensions, Hobbs, he's a candidate. Spillane, he's a candidate. Kuntz, definitely a candidate, right? I mean, those three guys for sure I'm looking at thinking that probably one of those dudes gets extended, post June 1st. But they're going to have a whole lot of money based off the Jimmy G contract coming off the books, being that post June 1st, that designation. So I think that they'll have room to play. I just don't think that they're going to focus on making sure that they play, if you understand what I mean. But thanks so much for that call. Look for contract extensions. That's what I'll be looking for sure. I just got time for a couple more. How about this one from a text from Ghost in the 804? It says, hey, Q, Ghost here from the 804 in Richmond, Virginia. Am I the only one who's comparing the move to Costa Mesa to the 70s training camps at the El Rancho Tropicana Hotel? The book Badasses talks a lot about holding down training camp away from everyone else's families, etc., created such a strong team bonds. I see his current move as no different, as another example of why AP is a perfect coach for the Raiders. Old school, just win, baby. That's Ghost in the 804. And thanks so much for the text. I don't know about the training camps at El Rancho Tropicana Hotel, but I get your point. And I do believe that that's a good reason to have training camp away from campus, right? I think that that's really good to go and get away from family, get away from friends, get away from outside noise, just solely focus on football as much as possible. I mean, social media, phones, all the way that you can access everything anyway makes things more difficult. But just leaving the facility and going home to your house in Summerlin or Henderson or wherever the case may be, sometimes it's just a little too easy, right? And so sometimes you need to have that 100% focus. So I do think that team building and bonding does have something to do with the move to Costa Mesa. And that's why I'm really applauding it and I'm excited about it. And I don't know the logistics on what my coverage is going to be of it so far, but I'm looking forward to it just to see what it looks like, especially under AP, first time he's running training camp. So Ghost in 804, thanks so much for the text. I appreciate you. How about this call from Raider Pigface in Salt Lake City, calling to talk about the draft, the quarterbacks the Raiders have, and what his expectations are for next season. Here he is, Raider Pigface, calling out of Salt Lake City.
Hey, this is Mr. Pigface from Salt Lake City, Utah. I just want to say, man, everybody needs to stop hating on Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, man. I've been seeing a lot of hate. Everybody say, oh, you didn't get a draft pick, you didn't get a QB in the draft, blah, 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 blah. Man, come on. We both know that these two can both win games. Gardner Minshew almost took the Colts to the playoffs. Aiden O'Connell can only get better, is what I'm expecting. And plus, I feel like after this draft, I see what the Raiders are doing. I think everybody knows what the Raiders are doing, and they're moving in the direction of building a great team around a quarterback. That's what I'm seeing. They're building up a lot of offense to help these two quarterbacks out. Whoever wins in the training camp to get that starting job, which I think is going to be a great competition for these guys, and we're going to see what happens. I was really thinking we were going to get a corner or something, but Bowers, man, I didn't really know about him, really. When we saw the draft, I was like, what? Tight end? But then we started, finding out about him. I was like, oh, wow, okay. I mean, he's a really good player. He could be a freaking Hall of Famer if he really keeps that up that he did in college. But I'm pretty optimistic about this next year. I haven't been this excited about a season in the past 2-3 years. That McDaniel stuff, wasn't quite sure sold on him, but this year I'm really excited about what AP can do, but it was kind of weird how we bring up that coin flip. I couldn't imagine them going off a coin flip. I don't know. I've seen the clips and reels. Kind of looked like AP was kind of pissed in those videos. I guess he lost that flip, obviously, because I thought probably he would get Terry on Arnold. So, yeah, that's how it goes. But I have a really good feeling about this season, Q, and Raider Nation. I think we might make a little run. We could probably get close to the playoffs or get in the playoffs if our defense keeps going in the way it did last year. Ranked number one, after the last 9 weeks of the season. I mean, if our defense keeps going that way, we can win a lot of games, give our offensive opportunity to win some games and score some touchdowns. But yeah, I can't wait to watch the season. Thank you, Q, for everything you do. Raider Nation, peace out.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And as far as the coin toss, I'm sure it went down to the wire. I'm sure it was a tough call. That's probably what was meant. But thought it was kind of cool that, they called him to tell him that. I think that was cool. Terry Arnold, I think, is a fantastic player. I think Detroit got a great one. I think the Raiders got a great one as well in Brock Bowers. As far as hating on O'Connell and Minshew, I don't think folks are doing that. I really don't. I just know for me, and I can only speak for myself, I just think that both those quarterbacks are good. I don't believe that they're the franchise quarterback for the long haul, but I think they're good right now, and I think that they can win games. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. And at some point, we'll have a conversation about, the playoffs, because I think that's what it's got to be. It's got to be an eye at the playoffs, and that's it. Can O'Connell or Minshew or a combination of both get them to the playoffs? Possibly. But, there's some really good teams in the AFC conference that are going to have something else to say about that. So we'll talk about that coming up shortly. But, I think the competition is going to be healthy. You heard what Champ Kelly had to say in segment number 2 about the competition at the quarterback position. I think that's all good. That's all that really matters. I think we all use hating way too easily. I think it's just understanding of what the situation is, especially if you're looking at the landscape of the AFC. But thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. We'll close out with this one, a text from Raider Jason in the 304. Hey, Q, Raider Jason from the 304. Just a few post-draft notes. 1, Bowers was a steal at 13. He might get them points needed to get to plus 24 when they selected him. I forgot he was still there, but because the Falcons put the draft on where it was, that will be a potent tight end room. 2, it was refreshing to stick and pick and take the best player available. Good job building a team, especially with the depth on the offensive line. That was really good. Back off of O'Connell. Raider Nation, if he takes a second-year jump, he could be really good. The 4, those power rankings are crap. As always, love the show. Keep up the outstanding work. Just win, baby. Go Raiders. There you go. Raider Jason in the 304. And, Bowers was a guy that nobody expected to be there at 13. He's going to be a hell of a player. Did he address a need? No, except for, like you said, possibly scoring plus 24 points, right? He wasn't on my radar. It's a shame on me. It's bad on me. That won't happen next time, but I'm glad that the Raiders got him. It was great, as I mentioned, to stick and pick, see the best player available, right? I had no problem with Tom Telesco taking that approach. Thought that was great. Again, as I mentioned before, I don't think anyone's really down on O'Connell, and I think he does have an opportunity to take a second-year jump. But again, I just think that it'd be okay to say it's good to want elite or close to elite quarterback as to really good quarterback. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. The power rankings, it's May conversation, right? I mean, the Raiders want to change their power ranking. Go win games. And obviously they can't win games till September. So none of that really matters at this stage of the game. So crap or not, it's just conversation in early May. So thanks so much for that. I appreciate you. With that, it's going to be a mic drop moment. We're going to close out the show. Thanks so much for everything. Hopefully you enjoyed the Champ Kelly sound. I really enjoy hearing from him. Again, I have a lot of respect for him and think he's going to be a GM of his own team sooner rather than later. So tomorrow we'll be back. We'll have plenty of conversation. We'll have more news and notes. And, of course, we'll have more calls and texts throughout that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.